Ravnica, the plane of guilds, which we have planeswalked to again and again and again. Among the 10 guilds, each has been given unique abilities. Some span that set and then are never heard from again, while others are spread across the multiverse for all to appreciate. Today we're going over, in depth, which Ravnican guild has best kept their exclusive abilities. There's still time to workshop that, yeah? Stellar. Here's what we're going over and basing our rankings off of. Feel free to pause it because it's not going to be on screen for much longer than this statement. First up is the law-abiding Azorius Senate. Their first ability, Forecast, debuted in Dissension back in 1993. It allows you to reveal a card with Forecast by paying a cost to gain some small but inevitably relevant effect that the main spell would capitalize on. But it can only be activated during your upkeep and only once each turn. And at the time of this recording, there are zero non-blue or white creatures that can use the Forecast ability, so that's real good. Alright, so they're at a 0 for now. Their next ability from 2012's Return to Ravnica, Detain, which says whatever gets detained can attack, block, or have its activated abilities activated. Very on theme, you are not under arrest, you are just being detained. Similarly on theme, no other colors get access to that ability either, so that's another W for the Azorius. Their latest ability at the time of recording was 2019's Addendum from Ravnica Allegiance, which gives your instant spells a little extra oomph if you cast them during your main phase. And similarly, because no other colors have ever had this ability, Azorius goes right in S tier. They haven't lost a thing, good for them. The ever-shifty House Dimir's abilities harken back to the very first Ravnica set in 93 with Transmute. It only looks like cycling. You do discard a card for a cost, but you have to find a card that costs the actual card's mana value, and you can only do it at sorcery speed. Not bad by any metric though. How many colors have access to Transmute? A whopping 0. So far you're in the clear, Dimir. Next up is Cipher. This allows you to exile a spell as it resolves to encode it onto a creature. Whenever it deals damage to a player, its controller at the time may cast a copy of the encoded spell for free. Very intriguing, maybe too intriguing because no other colors have access to this ability either. So far they're 2 for 3, let's see what 3 has. 2018's Guilds of Ravnica has Dimir with the ability Surveil, followed by a number. It allows you to look at the top numbered cards of your library and put them back either on top or into your graveyard. Very omniversal like Scry. Oh, and apparently many wizards felt the same because this is an ability, especially due to mergers at Karlov Manor, that every color now has access to. You had a good run, but everyone having access to Surveil is not that good of a look. Firm B tier. The painfully grim cult of Rakdos. Now, Hellbent has been around since Dissension. It is a tag that bumps up card effects or gives you extra bonuses as long as you have no cards in your hand. A very fun, albeit odd ability. Most wizards must agree because it is never found outside of Rakdos' colors. Unleash from 2012's Return to Ravnica. When this creature enters the battlefield, you may choose to give it a +1/+1 counter. If you do, it can't block so long as it has a +1/+1 counter. Very useful, albeit all for nothing kind of effect, which is apparently too risky for most because no other colors have access to this one either. Looking good, Rakdos. Last up is Spectacle from Ravnica Allegiance, which is an alternative cost for spells as long as the opponent has lost any life this turn, which no other colors has access to either, putting Rakdos firmly in S tier right besides their buddy the Azorius. The ferociously strong Gruul clans. Their oldest ability is from 93's Guild Pact, Bloodthirst, followed by a number. If an opponent was dealt damage this turn, this creature enters with that number's amount of counters on it. A very good and effective ability, which is apparently on theme for vampires because Black also has access to this ability. That's a small one, but it's a mark against you, Gruul. Next, they have Blood Rush from 2013's Gate Crash. It allows you to discard the card with it for a far smaller cost to grant an attacking creature its power, its toughness, and its abilities. Very effective and in some contexts kinda deadly, so it's a good thing that no other colors have access to this ability. Alright, the last ability is Riot, from 2019's Ravnica Allegiance. And it grants on ETB your choice of a +1/+1 counter or haste. Very similar to Unleash but with no downside. And their ability to keep this secret has done them good because no other colors have access to this either, So with the only exception being one loss to Bloodthirst, Gruul finds themselves properly placed in A tier, the peace-loving Selesnya Conclave. Their very first ability from City of Guilds back in 93 was Convoke, which allows you to tap creatures to reduce a Convoke spell's mana cost by 1 colorless mana, or 1 mana of that creature's color, which is an important and easy to overlook detail. Does that make Convoke better than Improvise? Let us know in the comments below. But as far as containment goes, every color has had access to Convoke. So that's not a good look for you, Selesnya, but I'm sure it'll get better. Up next is Populate. The Return to Ravnica ability allows you to create a token that's a copy of any creature token you control. Very strong and effective, so strong in fact they've given it out to every color in Magic as well. So that's 2 of their abilities that every color can use. Oh, you know every guild has had 3 abilities this far because we've gone to Ravnica 3 times? Well, when we came back the 3rd time, Selesnya just had Convoke again, so we're gonna have to count that as 3 again, which puts them, unfortunately, about as low as you can feasibly go. The money-grubbing Orzhov Syndicate. Their first ability is Haunt, from the Guild Pact set. Any card with Haunt can be exiled as it is sent to the graveyard, haunting another creature in play. Cards with Haunt tend to have Enter the Battlefield abilities, but also have the same abilities when the card they're haunting dies. A little cumbersome, it's no cipher, which might be why no other guild has access to it. In Gate Crash, Orzhov had the Extort ability, which gave you the option to pay a hybrid black or white whenever you cast a spell to make each opponent lose a life and gain however much was lost. Very powerful and on theme, I must say, and sticking with that brand despite how often it might come back, no other colors have access to it. Now the Orzhov's newest ability, Afterlife from Ravnica Allegiance, is followed by a number. When the creature with Afterlife dies, you make that many 1/1 white and black flying spirit creature tokens. That is quite the exact kind of token, and understandably so, no other colors have had access to it, which rewards the Orzhov's clean bill of health with S tier. The brain-exploding Izzet League. Their initial guild pack ability, Replicate, allows you to copy a spell with it for however many times you can pay its replicate cost. Sometimes it's tapping an untapped thing, sometimes it's paying actual mana. It's a very interesting and versatile ability, which is probably why every color, as of the Doctor Who set, has been given access to it in one way or another. There's even a Replicate sliver. 2012's Return to Ravnica introduced Overload, a separate and often bigger cost to the main spell's cost, but in exchange you would get to replace the word target in the main spell with the word each. Very effective, so effective that in Modern Horizons 2 back in 2021, they gave green, white, and black cards the ability Overload, which means so far the Izzet League has not been able to keep anything under wraps. 2018's Guilds of Ravnica gave the Izzet League Jumpstart, the ability to cast this spell from your graveyard by paying for it and discarding a card. It then gets exiled. So kinda like Flashback with an extra step. But even that was given to black in Modern Horizons 2. The Izzet have had basically everything taken from them, all we're missing is a white and black spell with Jumpstart. They get a firm C placement. The Grime-Caked Golgari Swarm. Their first ability from City of Guilds was Dredge, so powerful it warped formats. It is followed by a number and says if you would draw a card, you may instead mill that many. If you do, return the card with Dredge from your graveyard to your hand. Despite its power and how infrequently it returns, it has been given out in Modern Horizons 1 to a red sorcery. I guess as long as they keep it tame, we'll be alright. Return to Ravnica's Scavenge allows you to exile this card from your graveyard by paying an extra cost, and putting a number of +1/+1 counters equal to its power on target creature. This can only be done as a sorcery, and is more or less a way to demonstrate the Golgari's desire to recycle. But apparently nobody else messes with that kind of recycling, so no other colors use this ability. Lastly, in Guilds of Ravnica, they were given Undergrowth, which more or less counts the number of creatures in your graveyard. Sometimes it gives creatures counters for it, sometimes it makes you tokens for it, sometimes it gains you life. It all depends and it's pretty neat, but it must be a well-kept secret because no other colors have had access to it yet. Which, minor blemish aside, puts Golgari right in A tier. The ever-righteous Boros Legion. From City of Guilds, Boros has Radiance, which is just a reason for its cards to affect every creature that shares a color with the card it targets. And I gotta say, this is quite wacky because you can use like a token of your color that shares someone else's creature's color. You can hit that and affect their thing even though it might be hexproof or whatever. That's really neat, I gotta say. But apparently no other colors are feeling it, so we're gonna lock it back up in the Boros vault. Battalion, which debuted in Gatecrash, says as long as this and 2 other creatures are attacking, you get an extra effect of some kind. Sometimes it's a damage, sometimes it's giving all the creatures indestructible, sometimes it's first strike, trample, and can't be blocked by tokens. A very solid ability, but given how on brand it is with these colors, it's not surprising that no other colors have access to it. Their last ability is Mentor, which, when this creature attacks, puts a +1/+1 counter on a creature that's also attacking but has lesser power. This one might be a little too accessible because as of Caverns of Ixalan, every color outside of Boros has had access to this ability, which places Boros firmly in B next to its buddy Dimir. The hyper-evolved Simic Combine. Back in Dissension, their ability was Graft followed by a number, which would have the creature entered with that many counters, but also allow that creature to move a counter onto a creature that has just entered the battlefield. A very unique, albeit convoluted ability, rightfully has had no other colors attempting to copy it. In Gatecrash, Simic developed Evolve, a triggered ability which checks if a creature entering the battlefield under your control has higher toughness or power than this creature, and if it does, it puts a +1/+1 counter on it. It's a very simple and passive ability, and for now, only Black has access to it outside of the Simic Combine. In Ravnica Allegiance, the Simic adopted Adapt. Followed by a number, it is the ability to, after paying a cost, to place that number of +1/+1 counters on this creature so long as it has no +1/+1 counters on it already. At the time of recording, there was only one spell in Modern Horizons 2 that is non-Simic that uses it, which lands the Simic firmly in A tier. What did you guys think? Was it everything you thought it would be? Let us know in the comments below. Looking at it for ourselves, it sucks that Selesnya has been both given less than other guilds and also lost more than any other guild. Speaking plainly, it's not fair. We will now explain why Oba's heinous actions were not only needed, but rooted in, don't you try to silence us with the ending credits, were rooted in justice, a justice that is well deserved.